Alex, and welcome back to the next installment of my Game of Thrones review. Westeros has a new king! Long live King Tommen, first of his name. Marjorie keeps making eyes at him from across the room. You know, Cersei sees and she's all like, And then she goes over there and I'm just thinking, cat fight, because how awesome would that be? But instead of a cat fight, she's all like, you should be queen. It was just like Cersei was giving up almost, you know, and it was weird. Dany wants to go back home. You know, she's got men, she's got ships, but she finds out that Astapor and Yunkai have fallen back into the hands of slave owners, and, you know, it shakes her confidence a little bit. I mean, let's not forget that, you know, Dany's really still a teenage girl, and that's hard enough, you know, without being a queen and a liberator and everything like that. And, you know, she ends up telling Jorah that she's going to stay and rule, you know, so she can learn how to be a queen before she goes back and tries to, you know, get everyone on her side in Westeros. So she wants to be able to be a better queen by the time she gets home. And I think that's noble. Okay, and last week I mentioned a slight spoiler when I said that it didn't look like they were gonna pretend that Sansa was someone else, but obviously that did end up happening. It's just that in the book, in the book they went to the fingers before they went to the veil, well, to the earring, because I guess the fingers are technically in the veil, but they went to Littlefinger's holdings before they went, and that's where he and Lysa got married. And he already had Sansa's hair darkened, and was telling everyone that she was his illegitimate daughter, Elaine. I mean, on the show, he introduced her as Elaine, his niece, but Lysa already knew that she was Sansa before she even got there. He had already told her why he was going, what he was going to be doing, blah, 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 and, you know, she seemed to be cool with that. He gave Robin a bird, and then the little brat throws it down the moon door. Like, he's so excited, and he's just like, whatever. Because he's like, I mean, obviously, I don't think anyone's as bad as Joffrey, but, I mean, spoiled brat-wise, he could almost rival Joffrey. You know, probably not evil-wise. I mean, he's still breastfed, for Pete's sake, but it was not very nice. You know, and Lysa can't keep it in her pants. Then Cersei brings up the idea of having Marjorie marry Tommen, you know, to Tywin, and he's okay with that. They decide that 2 weeks is long enough to mourn Joffrey's loss, and then Cersei agrees to marry Loras 2 weeks after that. And Tywin admits that they need the Tyrells because the Lannisters are broke. None of their mines have had any gold in them for 3 years, you know, and the crown owes the Iron Bank of Braavos a lot of money. You might remember a few episodes ago, Davos wrote a letter to the Iron Bank of Braavos to try to get some funding for Stannis to raise an army. And we'll just have to see where that goes. We finally get to hear Arya making her death list again as she and the Hound are camping. And then the Hound finds out that he's on it. And, you know, I've mentioned that Cersei is crazy a few times, especially recently, you know, in light of Joffrey's death and all. Lysa's, like, legitimately crazy. I mean, like, she just snaps. You know, like that. Like, this woman is crazy. Like, obviously, you know, psychiatry isn't really common in Westeros, but I feel like that lady needs some lithium or something, you know? Like, Poor Sansa. We find out that Brienne and Potter headed toward the wall because Brienne decides that, you know, if it was her, she'd go to her brother, you know, if she was Sansa, and so the only brother Sansa thinks she has left is Jon, who's at the wall. And Pod gets on Brienne's nerves. She seriously does not want a squire. Arya practices her water dancing, and the Hound makes fun of her, and then, you know, he ends up imparting some harsh truths to her. Then we find out that Pod is a terrible cook. He tries to cook a rabbit with the skin still on, and it catches fire, and Brienne is not impressed. But she does gain some respect for him when she finds out, you know, what he did at the Battle of the Blackwater to save Tyrion's life. Jon and his group of Night's Watchmen get to Craster's Keep, and he sends Locke ahead. Locke sees Bran and Jojen and Mira and Hodor in their shed thing, and then when he reports back to Jon, he says that there were dogs there, so they should avoid that area so they're not detected, you know, because he wants to get to Bran. because he has been tasked with finding, Bran and Rickon for Bruce Bolton and taking care of it. And so, they believe him, and I think his name's Carl, that guy from the Night's Watch who was drinking out of Mormont's skull last week, which still a little fresh in my mind of something I really don't want to think about. He goes after Mira, and Bran's like, no, and Jojen is like ill and has been like having visions of like the weird wood that Bran's been seeing, and then like his own hand on fire. And, he's like, wait, if you leave my sister alone, I'll use my gift of sight to help you. And he's like, well, have you seen what I was going to do to your sister? And Jojen's like, no, but I saw you dying. And then the guy's like, excuse me? And then the Night's Watch is there. It was like perfectly timed. So, obviously it's fiction, but, good timing, Jon Snow. And they fight, and, outside, but Locke comes in and he finds Bran, and he tries to take him, and then Bran slips into Hodor and has Hodor come after them, and then Hodor snaps Locke's neck. And then when he comes out of it, like, I feel so bad for Hodor because he sees the blood on his hands and he's, like, freaking out. Like, you can tell that he's really upset about what he's done. But, there's not really much he can do about it. He's got to take care of Bran, and, he has to go save him. Well, cut him off, not cut him up. He cuts, like, the ropes and stuff off, and then Bran sends him to go get Jojen and Mira. And Bran's calling for Jon, but Jon can't hear. And then Jojen comes and he's like, you can't talk to him. He'll stop you from going to where you need to go. And Bran decides ultimately that Jojen is right. And so they get Summer and they leave. And we find out that they lost 5 men from the good side of the Night's Watch. And 10 of the 11 that Locke reported are dead from the bad guys in the Night's Watch. After Rast had gotten away. But Ghost kills him, which is good comeuppance since he was being a jerk and like taunting him with water before. But I forgot the fight with Carl and Jon. Carl was like besting him, and he had Jon on his back without his sword, and he'd wounded him. And then one of Craster's daughters comes in and stabs him in the neck, and he turns around to attack her, and Jon takes his sword and rams it through the back of his head, and it like comes out of his mouth, and it's so graphic. And it's like one of the most graphic things I think I've seen on the show. And like, I'm feeling gross, and I don't want to look at it, but at the same time, it's so exciting. And just so like, oh my gosh, like obviously I'm like really amped up right now just talking about it, which is ridiculous. But it was something. I don't know, I feel so weird even talking about it because it like, I mean, it's like Jon Snow is really a man now. Tyrion's trial is next week, so it'll be interesting to see, how that plays out. Whether Cersei gets the revenge on her little brother that she thinks she needs, or whether Tyrion, proves his innocence and is able to escape, death, which I'm sure he would enjoy. He doesn't want to die. I'm looking forward to it. Once Upon a Time, the finale is next week, and it's 2 hours long, and I'm going to skip Once Upon a Time, which I love, just to make sure that I don't miss a second of Game of Thrones. That is how much I am, like, into the show. So I can't wait to see, what happens, and I'd love to know what your thoughts on the episode were. You can leave them below in the comments. If you liked this video, it'd be awesome if you could give me a thumbs up and subscribe so you'll be able to get all my videos, as soon as you can. And this is still like blowing my mind, but I had an article published on Thought Catalog this week, 12 times the Game of Thrones mirrored my life. So if you would like to read a little more about that, in these weird ways that I can relate to the show, you can find that down in the comments section as well. I'll link that below. Just a warning, it's not like anything deep. I feel like the show is deep and serious enough, so it's kind of light and fluffy and involves things like going to Cub Scout camp, which I did. So if you'd like to read it, that'd be awesome. And I, again, will link it down below. So I will see you next week. Bye!